Welcome to another video with faith in every step. The story that I am about to share is a real story and told with the permission of the person. Names have been changed for anonymity. Let me know in the comment below what you feel and how it resonates with what you are going through. It started on a Thursday, the kind of day that looks normal, until everything changes. Elena sat at her desk watching the email load. It was short, cold, final. Your position has been terminated effective immediately. Her chest tightened. The words blurred. Just last week, she was leading meetings, mentoring others, planning her future. Now, everything she built was gone. She called her mum. No answer. She texted her best friend. Hey, can you talk? No reply. It felt like the world had pressed pause, except her thoughts kept racing. That night, sitting alone in her apartment, Elena whispered through tears, God, what did I do wrong? Silence. The air was thick with confusion. Her mind replayed every mistake, every maybe I should have, every why me. But this wasn't punishment. It was the beginning of transformation, because sometimes God allows what breaks you to reveal what builds you. Days turned to weeks, resumes sent, doors closed. Every prayer felt like it hit the ceiling. One morning, Elena said, Lord, are you even listening? Her voice cracked, half prayer, half frustration. The Bible on her nightstand was still unopened. She was afraid to read it, afraid it wouldn't make sense anymore. But that night, unable to sleep, she opened it anyway. Her eyes fell on Psalm 34:18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. She read it again. Slowly, close to the brokenhearted, she closed her eyes and whispered, Then be close, Lord, because I can't do this anymore. That's when something shifted, not outside her, but inside. Peace didn't flood the room, but it flickered, a soft whisper inside her heart, You're not forgotten. It wasn't a miracle, it was a reminder, and sometimes that's all faith needs to start breathing again. Elena tried to rebuild. She got a small part-time job, nothing like before. It bruised her pride. She smiled in front of others, but cried in the car. Every failure made her question if she'd lost God's favor. One evening, while driving home, she turned off the radio and said aloud, I'm tired of pretending I'm okay. I don't even know who I am anymore. Her voice echoed in the car, and then, softly, almost like a thought that wasn't hers, came the words, You're mine. That's who you are. Tears welled up. It wasn't the answer she expected, but it was the one she needed, because purpose doesn't begin with success, it begins with identity. The world had stripped her titles, her plans, her certainty, but in losing everything, she found what couldn't be taken, being God's child. It didn't happen overnight, but change rarely does. Elena began journaling again. Not about goals, but gratitude. Not when will it change, but thank you that you're still here. One day, she read Isaiah 43:2. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, she smiled. When you pass through, not if. Pain wasn't permanent, it was passing through. And purpose was waiting on the other side. Slowly, new opportunities appeared. Not glamorous, but meaningful. She began volunteering, mentoring women who were where she once was. Every story she heard sounded like a reflection of her own, and she realized God had been preparing her not to rebuild her old life, but to begin a new one. Elena didn't plan on finding purpose in an ordinary Tuesday morning, but that's how God works. Quietly, in the middle of what seems small. She was volunteering at a community center, just helping organize food donations. A woman walked in, tear-stained and trembling, asking for help. As Elena listened, her heart began to ache, not with sadness this time, but recognition. She'd been there, and right then, a thought rose in her spirit. This is what I've been preparing you for. It wasn't thunder or lightning. It was a whisper, but it carried more power than a shout. Elena began to see that God doesn't always call you to stages. Sometimes he calls you to scars, because the wounds that once silenced you become the words that heal someone else. She went home that night with fire in her chest, the kind she hadn't felt in years. She opened her Bible to Isaiah 61 and read aloud, The Spirit of the Lord is upon me to bind up the brokenhearted. And she whispered, Lord, if you can use what I've been through, I'm willing. That's where calling begins, not in perfection, but in permission. The moment she said yes, everything seemed to push back. Fear, doubt, voices of the past. You help others, you couldn't even help yourself. The enemy always attacks identity before destiny. Elena almost believed it, until she remembered something from before the storm. When God calls you, he's not looking at your resume. He's looking at your readiness, so she started small. A blog post, a Bible study note, a voice message to a friend who was hurting. Each step felt shaky, but she kept moving. And slowly, confidence began to replace condemnation. Philippians 1:6 echoed in her mind, "He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion." Elena smiled and said aloud, "If you started this, God, I trust you to finish it." That's the power of faith under pressure. When fear says stop, faith says step anyway. One night, after leading a small prayer group, Elena walked outside into the cool air. She looked up and whispered, "Is this really you, Lord? Am I doing the right thing?" Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Hi Elena, I just wanted to thank you. Your post helped me through the hardest week of my life." Tears filled her eyes. It wasn't about likes or follows, it was about impact. God has a way of sending confirmation right when doubt tries to steal your confidence. She realized she didn't need to see the whole plan. She just needed to obey the next step. Purpose wasn't a destination, it was a daily decision. And for the first time in a long time, her pain didn't define her, it refined her. A year later, Elena stood in front of a room full of women sharing their stories of faith and restoration. Each one had faced loss, heartbreak, or disappointment, but they were smiling again. She told them, "I used to think God had abandoned me. Now I know, He was rebuilding me." Applause filled the room, not for her, but for the God who turns ashes into beauty. As she spoke, she saw it clearly. Every tear, every silence, every sleepless night had been seed, and now it was harvest time. Elena wasn't famous, but she was faithful, and that was enough. When she finished, she whispered to herself, "This is why I survived." Because purpose isn't found after pain, it's forged in it. Elena began speaking to others who felt forgotten. She'd look them in the eyes and say, "You think you've lost everything, but God is still writing your story." Her message wasn't from theory, it was from the trenches. And that's why people listened. She learned what Job once did. The same God who allows the storm is the God who speaks peace to it. In one of her talks, she said, "If your world has fallen apart, remember, resurrection only happens after something dies." The crowd went silent. Someone wept, and Elena smiled because she knew. Purpose after pain isn't about avoiding brokenness, it's about finding God inside it. Months later, Elena stood on a small church platform sharing her story. She wasn't preaching, she was testifying. "I thought I was finished," she said, voice trembling. But God doesn't end stories with failure, He ends them with grace. Applause rose, but she just lifted her hands and said, "If He did it for me, He can do it for you too." It wasn't eloquence that moved people. It was authenticity. They could see themselves in her scars. And that's the thing about faith. When you rise again, you give others permission to rise too. She finished with this: "Pain taught me how to pray. Waiting taught me how to trust. And loss taught me how to love again." Then she smiled and whispered, "Thank you, Lord, for every tear that led me here." Maybe you're watching this right now and you feel like Elena. You've lost something you can't replace. You've prayed and heard nothing back. You wonder if God still has a plan. Lean in, because this is for you. You're still here, not by accident, but by assignment. If you survived the breaking, it's because your story isn't over yet. Romans 8:28 still stands. All things work together for good to those who love God. That means even this, even what you don't understand. So don't quit in the middle of your story. The same God who met Elena in the silence is about to meet you in yours. If this message spoke to your heart today, take a moment. Like this video if it brought you peace. Share it with someone who needs hope tonight. Subscribe to Faith in Every Step. Because together, we're walking through the fire and finding God in every step. Faith in Every Step, where every story finds redemption.